Have you ever wondered why some people only realize your worth after you've walked away? Why they ignored your kindness, took your loyalty for granted, and treated your sincere heart like it was nothing, only to later regret losing you? Chosen ones, this is not a coincidence. It is one of the ways Allah teaches people that true blessings are often recognized only after they are gone. Throughout history, Allah has shown that His most precious gifts are frequently overlooked before they are deeply appreciated. Even Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, was rejected by those closest to him before they finally realized he was the very blessing Allah had placed among them. If you've ever felt unnoticed, unappreciated, or questioned your value because of how others treated you, this message is for you. Today, we will uncover 6 powerful lessons from an Islamic perspective that reveal why Allah sometimes allows people to lose what they should have treasured, why your worth was never determined by human opinions, and why those who underestimated you may one day realize that you were one of the greatest blessings Allah ever placed in their lives. Stay with me until the end, because the final lesson could completely change the way you see your past, your purpose, and the incredible plan Allah has been unfolding for you all along. Lesson 1. Allah often hides the value of His greatest blessings until the right time. One of the hardest realities for chosen ones is accepting that people often fail to recognize blessings while they are enjoying them. This has happened throughout history and continues to happen every single day. Human beings naturally become comfortable with the blessings Allah places in their lives. After seeing the same blessing day after day, they stop noticing how precious it truly is. Instead of thanking Allah for it, they begin expecting it as if it will always be there. A loyal friend becomes someone they assume will never leave. A sincere heart becomes something they overlook. A patient person becomes someone whose sacrifices are rarely acknowledged. Someone who constantly prays for them, supports them during difficult times, forgives their mistakes, and encourages them to become better, slowly becomes normal in their eyes. This is part of human nature. Allah reminds us in the Quran that people can become forgetful and ungrateful when surrounded by blessings. That is why many people only realize the value of someone after Allah removes that blessing from their lives. When the peace, comfort, wisdom, and sincerity that person brought are no longer there, they begin to understand what they once had. While that person was present, they assumed the kindness would never end, the support would always be available, and the prayers would never stop. But once Allah creates distance, the empty space becomes impossible to ignore. They begin searching for the same honesty, loyalty, and genuine care in others, yet nothing feels the same because some blessings cannot simply be replaced. Allah gives certain people a special role in our lives, and when they are gone, their absence teaches a lesson that their presence never could. This is why chosen ones should never measure their worth by how people treat them. Human appreciation can be delayed, but Allah's knowledge is never delayed. He sees every sacrifice, every silent prayer, every act of patience, and every moment you chose kindness when no one else noticed. Think about Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. His own brothers looked at him through the eyes of jealousy instead of gratitude. They saw him as competition rather than a blessing from Allah. Their jealousy became so powerful that it blinded them to the truth. Instead of appreciating his good character, his innocence, and the love their father had for him, they convinced themselves that removing Yusuf, peace be upon him, would solve all their problems. They threw him into a deep well, believing that once he was gone, their lives would become happier and easier. But Allah's plan was far greater than anything they imagined. Yusuf, peace be upon him, went through slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment. Yet every hardship was preparing him for the position Allah had chosen for him. Years later, when famine struck the land, the same brothers who once wanted him gone came to Egypt, desperately searching for food. Without realizing it, They stood before the very brother they had rejected. The one they had thrown into a well had become the man Allah chose to save not only Egypt, but also their own family. The blessing they tried to remove became the blessing they desperately needed. Imagine the regret they must have felt when they understood that if Yusuf, peace be upon him, had not been where Allah placed him, they would have had no one to turn to. Their jealousy had hidden his value, but Allah's perfect timing revealed it in a way no one could deny. This story teaches a powerful lesson that every chosen one should remember. Your value is never determined by the opinions of people. Just because someone overlooks your kindness, ignores your loyalty, or fails to appreciate your sincerity, does not mean those qualities have no value. Sometimes Allah intentionally allows people to misunderstand your importance because He plans to reveal your worth at the exact moment when they need to see it most. Had Yusuf's, peace be upon him, brothers appreciated him from the beginning, they would never have witnessed the incredible wisdom behind Allah's plan. Sometimes separation reveals what constant closeness hides. Sometimes losing a blessing is the only way people learn to recognize it. Chosen ones often ask, why did they ignore everything I did for them? Why did they only appreciate me after I was gone? The answer is that Allah teaches every heart differently. Some people learn through advice, while others only learn through loss. That is why you should never become bitter when people fail to recognize your worth. Continue doing good for the sake of Allah alone. He remembers every tear you cried, every prayer you made for others, every act of forgiveness, and every sacrifice you made without expecting anything in return. People's memories fade, but Allah never forgets. And when the time is right, He can open hearts, reveal hidden truths, and make people recognize your value without you saying a single word. Trust Allah's timing, because what He reveals at the perfect moment always has a greater impact than anything you could have explained yourself. Lesson 2. Losing you became the lesson Allah used to awaken their hearts. One of the ways Allah teaches people is through experience. Advice can be ignored, reminders can be forgotten, but experience leaves a mark on the heart that is difficult to erase. Many people do not recognize the value of a sincere person while they are present, because they assume that person's kindness, support, and loyalty will always be there. They become so familiar with the blessing that they stop appreciating it. But when Allah removes that person from their lives, everything begins to change. The peace they once felt disappears. The sincere advice they once received is no longer there. The person who always prayed for them, encouraged them, forgave them, and stood beside them during difficult times is suddenly gone. Only then do they begin to understand that they were never dealing with an ordinary person. They had been living with one of Allah's blessings, yet they failed to recognize it. Allah often allows this kind of separation not to destroy people, but to awaken their hearts. Sometimes losing someone becomes the very lesson that opens their eyes to what they once ignored. This pattern can be seen throughout Islamic history. During the early years of Islam, many people rejected Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They mocked him, insulted him, and refused to listen to the message Allah had sent through him. They believed they were protecting their traditions, but in reality, they were turning away from the greatest blessing Allah had ever given humanity. As time passed, they witnessed the honesty, mercy, patience, and justice of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They saw how Islam transformed hearts, united divided tribes, and brought peace where there had once been hatred. Many of those who had opposed him eventually accepted Islam and admitted that they had been wrong. They realized that the person they had rejected was actually the greatest mercy Allah had sent to guide them. Their hearts changed because Allah allowed them to experience the truth instead of simply hearing about it. This reminds us that Allah can soften even the hardest hearts when the time He has chosen arrives. Chosen ones should understand that they are not responsible for forcing people to appreciate them. You cannot make someone recognize your worth if Allah has not yet opened their heart. No amount of explaining, proving yourself, or chasing after people will create genuine appreciation. Real understanding comes only when Allah removes the veil from a person's heart. That is why you should never exhaust yourself trying to convince others of your value. Focus instead on pleasing Allah and maintaining good character. If someone is meant to realize what you meant to them, Allah will teach them in His own perfect way and at His own perfect time. Sometimes your silence speaks louder than your words, and sometimes your absence teaches lessons your presence never could. Trust that Allah knows how to awaken hearts, reveal hidden truths, and make people understand the blessings they once took for granted. Your responsibility is not to be recognized by people. Your responsibility is to remain sincere before Allah, because His recognition is the only one that truly lasts. Lesson 3. Your character was the real blessing, not what you could give them. Many people spend their lives believing that the greatest blessings come in the form of money, success, beauty, influence, or material possessions. But Islam teaches us something completely different. Allah repeatedly shows throughout the Quran that the greatest blessings are often people with righteous hearts and noble character. A person who sincerely fears Allah brings peace wherever they go. They become a source of comfort during hardship, wisdom during confusion, hope during sadness, and strength during difficult times. Chosen ones often do not realize how much light they bring into the lives of others because they help people naturally without expecting praise or recognition. They encourage others when they are ready to give up. They forgive, even after being hurt. They pray for people who never pray for them, and they continue showing kindness even when no one thanks them. Over time, many people begin to treat this goodness as something ordinary. They stop appreciating the patience, honesty, loyalty, and sincere concern they receive because they assume it will always be there. Instead of thanking Allah for placing such a person in their life, they begin taking them for granted. But when that person is no longer present, they suddenly discover that peace cannot be replaced, loyalty cannot be bought, and sincerity cannot be copied. They may meet many new people, but something always feels different because what they truly lost was not just a person, it was the beautiful character that Allah had placed inside that person's heart. This is why Allah tells us that the most honored people in His sight are those who have the most righteousness, not the most wealth or status. The world often celebrates appearances, but Allah looks at hearts, intentions, and deeds. This truth is beautifully reflected in the life of Prophet Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him. Before accepting Islam, Abu Bakr was already known throughout Mecca as an honest, trustworthy, generous, and compassionate man. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, called people to Islam, Abu Bakr immediately recognized the truth because of his sincere heart. After embracing Islam, he devoted everything he had for the sake of Allah. He spent his wealth to free oppressed Muslim slaves like Bilal, may Allah be pleased with him, stood beside the Prophet, peace be upon him, during the most dangerous moments, accompanied him during the migration to Medina when enemies were searching to kill them, and never abandoned him through any hardship. His greatest gift was never his wealth. It was his unwavering faith, loyalty, honesty, humility, and complete trust in Allah. These qualities became one of the greatest blessings for the Muslim community. Even after the Prophet, peace be upon him, passed away, Allah chose Abu Bakr to lead the believers during one of the most difficult periods in Islamic history because his character had already proven his strength. This teaches every chosen one an important lesson. Your greatest value is not your appearance, your job, your influence, or what you own. Those things can disappear overnight. Your real value is the character you build for the sake of Allah. A sincere heart, honest words, patience during hardship, forgiveness after being hurt, humility during success, and trust in Allah are treasures that this world cannot replace. People may not recognize these qualities while they are benefiting from them because they become familiar with your goodness. But once Allah removes you from their lives, they begin searching for the same peace in others and realize how rare it truly was. Some spend years trying to replace what they lost, only to discover that righteous character is one of the rarest gifts Allah gives. That is why chosen ones should never become discouraged when their goodness seems unnoticed. Allah never overlooks even the smallest act of sincerity. Every time you choose honesty instead of lying, patience instead of anger, forgiveness instead of revenge, generosity instead of selfishness, and faith instead of despair, Allah records it. Even if the world fails to appreciate your character today, Allah is preparing a reward far greater than human recognition. And if people eventually realize your worth, let it remind you that they were never missing your possessions. They were missing the light of faith, kindness, and sincerity that Allah had placed within your heart. Continue protecting that character, because it is one of the greatest blessings Allah has given you, and through it, He may continue blessing countless lives without you ever fully realizing it. Lesson 4. Allah removes you from places that no longer honor the blessing He placed within you. One of the most difficult lessons for chosen ones is understanding that not every ending is a punishment. Sometimes, what feels like rejection is actually one of Allah's greatest acts of protection and mercy. There are moments when you keep trying to hold on to certain people, relationships, or places because you believe that if you are more patient, more understanding, or more forgiving, things will eventually change. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sees what you cannot see. He knows when a person's heart has become closed, when your kindness is being taken for granted, and when your presence is no longer appreciated as the blessing it truly is. Instead of allowing you to remain in an environment that slowly drains your peace, weakens your faith, or causes you constant sadness, Allah gently removes you. At first, this separation can be painful. You may wonder why the relationship ended, why certain people walked away, or why doors suddenly closed despite all your efforts. But with time, you begin to realize that Allah was not taking something valuable away from you. He was rescuing you from a place where your value was no longer recognized. This is exactly what happened in the life of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him. After accidentally causing the death of an Egyptian man, news spread that Pharaoh planned to kill him. Allah inspired Musa, peace be upon him, to leave Egypt immediately. Imagine how frightening that journey must have been. He left with no army, no wealth, no clear destination, and no idea what the future would hold. To many people, it looked like Musa, peace be upon him, had lost everything. He was forced to leave the place where he had grown up, and it seemed like his life had fallen apart. But what appeared to be a disaster was actually the beginning of Allah's greatest plan for him. During his journey, Allah guided him safely to the land of Madian, where he met righteous people, found safety, married into a noble family, and spent years growing in wisdom, patience, and strength. It was there that Allah prepared him spiritually before choosing him for one of the greatest missions in history. Years later, Allah spoke directly to Musa, peace be upon him, near Mount Tur, and commanded him to return to Pharaoh, not as a frightened man running for his life, but as a prophet carrying the message of Allah. Had Musa, peace be upon him, never left Egypt, he may never have experienced the preparation Allah had planned for him. What looked like rejection was actually divine protection, and what seemed like loss became the path to his greatest purpose. This is how Allah often works in the lives of His chosen servants. Sometimes He removes you from people who repeatedly disrespect your kindness, because He knows they will never value what He placed inside your heart. Sometimes He closes a door because He is protecting you from future pain that you cannot yet see. Sometimes He allows relationships to end because your next chapter requires people who will help strengthen your faith instead of weakening it. Chosen ones often make the mistake of chasing after people who have already shown that they do not appreciate them. They spend months or even years trying to prove their worth, hoping that one more explanation, one more act of kindness, or one more sacrifice will finally change someone's heart. But the truth is that only Allah changes hearts. If someone refuses to recognize your sincerity after repeatedly benefiting from it, there comes a time when Allah Himself creates distance. Not because you failed, but because your heart deserves protection. Remember, Allah never removes something from your life without wisdom. Every closed door carries a hidden mercy, every painful goodbye carries a lesson, and every unexpected ending is part of a greater plan that only Allah can fully see. Looking back, many believers realize that the relationships they cried over were actually the ones that would have held them back from becoming the person Allah wanted them to be. They thank Allah for unanswered prayers, delayed plans, and closed doors, because they eventually see the goodness hidden behind them. If Allah has removed certain people from your life, do not spend your days asking why they left. Instead, ask Allah what He is preparing you for. Trust that the one who knows the unseen never makes mistakes. Your greatest reward has never depended on people appreciating you. It has always depended on Allah, who never overlooks a single act of patience, sincerity, or faith. So walk forward with confidence, knowing that if Allah removed you from a place where your worth was ignored, He is leading you toward a place where your faith will grow, your heart will find peace, and His blessings will become even more evident than before. Lesson 5. Allah's timing is always greater than people's regret. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they will always have another chance to appreciate the blessings Allah has placed in their lives. They convince themselves that tomorrow will come, that there will always be another opportunity to apologize, another chance to say thank you, another moment to show love, respect, or gratitude. But Allah teaches us that time is one of His greatest creations, and once a moment has passed, it can never be brought back. This is why so many people are filled with regret later in life. They remember the person who sincerely cared for them, the one who remained loyal when others walked away, the one who prayed for them without them ever knowing, the one who forgave them repeatedly, and the one who stayed beside them during their darkest moments. Yet while they had that blessing, they treated it as something ordinary. They believed that person would never leave, never change, and never grow tired of being overlooked. But Allah does not allow His sincere servants to remain forever in places where they are constantly unappreciated. There comes a time when Allah, out of His perfect wisdom and mercy, moves His chosen servants towards something greater. Then, only after they are gone, the people left behind begin to understand what they have lost. They replay old conversations in their minds, remember acts of kindness they once ignored, and wish they had spoken differently, acted differently, and appreciated the blessing before it disappeared. But by then, Allah's plan has already moved forward. Their regret becomes real, but it cannot always change what Allah has already written. This powerful truth can be seen in the life of Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him. For approximately 950 years, he patiently called his people to worship Allah alone. Imagine the patience, love, and mercy required to spend centuries inviting people toward guidance. Day after day, year after year, generation after generation, he warned them with compassion, advised them with wisdom, and reminded them of Allah's mercy. He wanted nothing from them except that they save themselves by turning back to their Creator. Yet most of his people mocked him, laughed at him, rejected him, and treated his message as if it had no value. When Allah commanded Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, to build the ark, their mockery only increased. They laughed as they watched him building a massive ship far from the sea, believing he had lost his mind. They could not see what Allah had already revealed to his prophet. They judged with their eyes, while Nuh, peace be upon him, trusted the unseen promise of Allah. Then the day arrived when the skies opened, the earth burst forth with water, and the flood began exactly as Allah had promised. Suddenly, those who had mocked him realized that everything he had warned them about was true. Fear replaced arrogance, and regret replaced pride. But their realization came too late. Once Allah's decree had arrived, there was no opportunity left to change the past. Even the son of Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, believed he could escape by climbing a mountain. But Nuh, peace be upon him, lovingly called him to board the ark and trust Allah instead. His son refused, thinking his own plan was better. Moments later, the waves separated them, and he was among those who drowned. This heartbreaking moment reminds us that recognizing the truth after Allah's decree has already arrived does not always remove the consequences of earlier choices. Allah's timing is perfect, and every opportunity has an appointed end. This lesson speaks deeply to chosen ones, because many people only recognize your worth after Allah has already begun leading you toward a different chapter of life. They suddenly realize how much peace your presence brought, how much wisdom your advice contained, and how sincere your intentions always were. They begin searching for the same qualities in others, but they discover that genuine faith, loyalty, honesty, and compassion are rare treasures. Some try to return, hoping everything can go back to the way it was, but Allah does not always reopen doors that He Himself has closed. Not because He is unforgiving, but because He knows the future that no human being can see. Sometimes He keeps a door closed because reopening it would delay your growth, weaken your faith, or return you to a place that no longer serves His purpose for your life. Chosen ones must understand that forgiveness and reconciliation are beautiful parts of Islam, but they must also be guided by wisdom and obedience to Allah. Forgiveness does not always mean returning to the same situation. Sometimes you forgive someone completely while continuing to walk the path Allah has opened before you. There is no hatred in your heart, no desire for revenge, and no wish to see anyone suffer. Instead, you leave everything to Allah, trusting that He is the most just and the most wise. One of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity is reaching the point where you no longer need people to admit your worth before you can move forward. You become satisfied knowing that Allah witnessed every sacrifice you made, every tear you cried in private, every prayer whispered in the middle of the night, every act of patience shown when you wanted to react, and every moment you chose righteousness over your own desires. Human recognition becomes secondary because the pleasure of Allah becomes your greatest goal. That is true freedom. It frees you from constantly seeking approval, constantly proving yourself, and constantly chasing after people who cannot see the blessing Allah placed within you. If someone eventually realizes your value, thank Allah for opening their heart. If they never do, continue thanking Allah because your reward was never dependent upon their understanding. Allah has already recorded every good deed, every sincere intention, and every act of faith. Remember that the greatest loss is not when people fail to recognize your worth. The greatest loss is when someone ignores the opportunities Allah gives them until those opportunities are gone forever. Therefore, continue walking with patience, humility, and trust in Allah. Never allow another person's regret to determine your future. Their realization belongs to them, but your journey belongs to Allah. When Allah opens a new door, step through it with confidence, because whatever He has prepared for those who remain sincere is always greater than anything they leave behind. Trust His timing, trust His wisdom, and remember that every blessing He removes is replaced with something better for those who put their complete trust in Him. Conclusion. Chosen ones, if there is one message you should carry with you from today's lessons, it is this: your worth has never depended on whether people recognized it. Your worth was given to you by Allah long before anyone formed an opinion about you. Some people will appreciate you immediately, while others will only realize your value after you are no longer part of their lives. That is simply how Allah teaches certain hearts. He allows people to experience the absence of a blessing so they can understand what they once took for granted. But never let someone else's delayed realization become the reason you question your purpose or your identity. If Allah has placed sincerity in your heart, patience in your character, and faith in your soul, then you are already carrying treasures that this world cannot measure.